everyone. I'm Chris Burchett, and I lead the Blue Yonder platform engineering team. And joining me today at ICON are Freddy.
I am Freddy Guard from Snowflake. I'm part of the industry team for retail and consumer goods. And my role is to work with partners such as Blue Yonder and Microsoft to bring together the right industry solutions for our customers.
Great. And I'm Shanthi Rajagopalan. It is lovely to be here with you all today. It's my first ICON. And similar to Freddy, I look after our retail and consumer goods strategy, which means I get to talk to our customers, understand what is top of mind for them, and help them really matchmake with the right Microsoft as well as partner solutions to get the job done.
Great. You know, I'm really excited about the three-way partnership that we've been able to pull together over the last several years. What's exciting to me as a product development guy is not only do I get the benefit of all the great technology that my team builds, but I really, in essence, I get to build on the amazing technology that thousands of engineers across Snowflake and Microsoft are building every day. And then I get to interact with those engineers sometimes to even drive new innovations into those platforms. And that means that what Blue Yonder is really building on top of is just a tremendous innovation, platform. And that has really allowed us to transform the way we think about our solutions.
Yeah. I love that you share it that way, that it's really like you're kind of standing on the shoulders of all of these other kind of, innovative engineers and platforms. We often tell our customers that as well, that, Microsoft has the luxury of investing thousands of engineers to help build something. And so we love to partner with our customers to bring that innovation to them. So seeing it then be leveraged by our partners too, I think is great, and how the three platforms can really come together to solve customer problems. We kind of feel like we need it these days. It's like the world of retail and CG in particular has gotten so complicated. Yes. What our customers tell us is they need that like hyperscaler kind of connectivity, and they need specialized data capabilities, and they need specialized application capabilities. So it really does take kind of the three to bring it all together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the great thing is the way we've approached this particular partnership, right? We're building out this ecosystem which is going to not only benefit the three partners, but the entire industry. And I think there is something really exciting about that paradigm versus having closed solutions of the past, right? So it's really going to change the way supply chain operates. You're going to see a lot more collaboration across the ecosystem, and that's the exciting part for us.
That is exciting. And I think also in the past we had these silos because we had to replicate data across different pieces of the solution. And the reason we did that is because we didn't have a platform like Azure or Snowflake that had the scale, the compute, the data storage. So now what we can do is we can think about a new way to solve this problem. In the past, those silos, they created a demand planning team and a space planning team that didn't understand the demand, right? Why would you plan your space without understanding demand? Why would you plan store and item inventory replenishment without understanding the space constraints or the demand constraints? But now that we have a platform, this power of three, we can really build one solution to globally optimize across what the business objectives are instead of an individual, department siloed objective. And that's what I think is truly game changing. What that'll also allow us to do is build really now business scenario planning. So in the supply chain world, we move away from these silos and we move into more of a business scenario planning where we can say, I want to maximize profit, I want to drive top line revenue, but I also want to maintain my carbon efficiency, and we can let AI and we can let machine learning drive thousands of scenarios, and we can let them, those scenarios basically pick out the top candidates, and then a human can select from those which one they want to implement. And it's all because we have the Azure, compute scale, the big data, and the ability to change how we now think about the problem.
Absolutely, and I think if you think about it, it's not only breaking down silos within the supply chain world, but as I think there was some discussion this morning in the keynote too, like how do you bring supply chain as a function that touches in the entire organization, right? So everything from demand planning to demand generation to demand fulfillment, all of that can be linked, and everybody has visibility to the right levels of data so that they can make the right decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's interesting. I often use the example of like back before our iPhones were all so cloud connected. Do you remember you had to like have an iPod that you would physically plug into a laptop that you would, you know, rip a CD onto and then transfer the files? And when I think back to that, it created a few things. One, there was a separate iPod hardware team. There was a separate team that was looking at, you know, kind of content creation and rights management. There was a separate team that was looking at the software experience of iTunes. And what the power of the cloud basically did was allow us to have one single user interface that is Apple Music that says, I want to hear this song and I want to hear it now and I'm going to download it, and it's like there at the touch of my fingers. Yes. And so I feel like that same thing is happening to the world of enterprise software with the power of the cloud, the ability to have data that's replicated in real time or virtualized, and these integrated now hardware and software experiences. It's kind of our moment where we don't have to rip CDs and have separate hardware anymore, and we can really think of it as an integrated experience.
I love that analogy, and you're exactly right. Just like the iPad and the music store is on demand.
Yeah.
It's tailored to my needs. The same is true now of enterprise software in the cloud. I can truly get what I need, but I would say the challenging part with this is the data. I have to have the data to feed. The nice thing about the music store is somebody's curated that data and they prepared it for you. Yeah. And the challenge for the retailer is how do they bring all that data together from different sources and curate that data? You know, that's where I think the tools are still kind of coming together.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think, but that is where data platforms are changing, right? Like instead of having each solution be its own data store and having all these different data stores and silos sitting around in an organization, you can now arrange your data in one single data layer.
That's right.
On a data platform that is scalable.
Yep.
And then build the applications you want on top of that.
Absolutely.
In a plug and play manner. So that takes away that age-old challenge of each data being fed with a different data store that has to be managed separately, because that was so time consuming. It led to latency and a whole sorts of issues.
Absolutely. And you, in a sense, you as a retailer can become your own app store.
Absolutely.
Your own music store, because you can share out that data then with your partners and even monetize it potentially.
The discussion this morning on microservices, I was also really happy to hear about, because I think that's another big challenge for our customers, is they have a combination of both legacy applications as well as new things that they've brought into their environment. And so the combination of those two things has to work together in order to actually solve problems, you know, end to end. Right. And so there's actually a mutual customer that we had, which I won't say their name just in case they don't want us talking about them. But the challenge they had was a lot of their internal kind of warehouse systems were built on a bit more of a legacy stack, but what they were using to actually communicate with, say, order management systems or communicate with like their stores, that was all more SaaS-based and modern. And so actually bridging the gap between those two things, they found real tangible benefits of being able to exchange data in real time, regardless of where the application stacks sat, so that they could help their warehouse folks be more efficient, they could fulfill more orders on time, and it turns into real dollars, you know, real dollars of like, you know, revenue that you're making sure you've got the inventory to capture, as well as like the human labor costs. So this idea of the data being free flowing across your apps, whether they're, you know, newer or older, is so important for retailers. No one can afford to start from scratch with, you know, a beautiful stack. We've all had to grow our capabilities organically, you know?
That's right. And that's the point of the composable journey that we saw this morning as well, is that it is the reality that everybody's going to be starting from some place, some hybrid architecture of on-prem and legacy, maybe heritage technologies, and the more modern SaaS-based. So we have to enable the retailers to come along that journey, right? And start with getting that data foundation in place, you know, and really enabling that one place where they can serve all of these different applications, whether they're heritage or whether they're more modern, because that's going to give one place where you manage it that's going to make it much easier than to report on, to drive analytics and all of that sort of things. And then layering on the microservices to add more and more value and kind of ease into the cloud, into the modern stack.
I like the word heritage, by the way. I've been calling it legacy. Heritage sounds like really a lot more forgiving. I like that.
It's more. It's a better way to say it, right?
Because there's some stuff you're proud of still in there.
It recognizes the value, right?
Yes.
You have value
and
in
it
that.
serves a purpose,
right?
In most organizations.
And I think the observation there is, kind of SaaS applications helped a lot of business users not have to worry about the cloud infrastructure. And I think these advances we're making in data platforms and microservices are now helping that business user honestly not have to worry about where this data comes from.
Right.
And so being able to really put it all together in a way that, they just want answers to their questions.
Yes.
And that, of course, is then, the entree to the new world of generative AI, which allows people to just use natural language instead of specialized language to get those insights. Yes. We've been kind of early adopters of Gen AI at Microsoft, as you can well imagine. And I have to say, it's made such a big difference in just my daily productivity. Yes. Being able to use, just words that are easy to sort out. If you can explain the business logic you're going for, you can code these days.
Absolutely.
So it's really pretty exciting to see how, we're going to go up the stack from kind of, the cloud becoming normalized to then data becoming normalized to even then application interfaces becoming normalized.
Yeah. I think that's the exciting part about our partnership also is like we all are bringing some very different skill sets and capabilities to the partnership, right? We've got the data platform that we can provide. We've got the technology, we've got the intelligence from the models, and then we've got the functional expertise.
That's right.
Because without the functional expertise, you don't want Gen AI models running by themselves. Because there's a lot of hallucinations out there, as we've seen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So understanding that part along with all the technology, I think is really powerful.
And I think what's going to be exciting about the next phase of Gen AI is now we start to see how do we build agents, to your point, connect them into the supply chain technologies deeper, to the business technologies. If we can start to enable them with purpose-built APIs and tools that the Gen AI can then use to solve the problems, now what we're looking at is a world where not only does it have a lot of documentation and data maybe to show insights on, but it can actually plan out a strategy to solve something, multi-step logic, and run these things, and they do the computing since they're not so good at math, and the answers are reliable then as a result. So I think as we mature this kind of agent idea for Gen AI, that's going to be really exciting to see the levels of automation we're going to see. Yeah.
One of the engineers at Microsoft was sharing that like kind of the traditional chatbot kind of generative AI interface, it brought some level of like kind of knowledge and reasoning and some level of kind of a persona to that experience. Right. But what they really anticipate is going to happen with these agents is in addition to the reasoning and the persona is also this idea of memories. Right. That basically these agents are now going to have kind of both short and long-term memory of, you know, what did I do before? What was the action that the user took in relation? Yep. The last time I was confronted with this scenario, what did the user actually decide to do? Right. What updates did they make? And so that's, I think, going to be a really interesting thing as we see these agents progress, is this idea of like the memories are as important as that reasoning and kind of persona that we've come to appreciate from chat.
Exactly. There's a whole new world ahead of us with these things. So many exciting, you know, technology innovations happening right now.
Yeah, but you know, like the one thing that really caught my eye this morning was the user interface design.
Yeah. Yes.
And that whole portion is, I think, another piece that's been missing from this puzzle. Yeah. And having a user-led design thinking process is going to change the way users interact with software. And that's going to be a whole new level of acceptance, adoption, change management. That's really going to drive this.
And, you know, in a sense, we worry about Gen AI kind of taking over the role of the human. In some sense, Gen AI has so much power to make it more human-centric because it can interface through voice and language and in a more natural way. When over Christmas, I built a little voice chatbot,
Nice.
and just for fun, to play around with it. And the cool thing, what I was imagining was the supply chain executive in the car or on the train, listening to an update on their business and driving actions that would, tell me my top 3 problems and what about my special customer that I need, to solve the problem for, and being able to interact just naturally with voice. It's almost a more human-centric way to interact with technology that's coming.
Yeah, and that's so important in the world of generative AI. I think what we've seen with a lot of customers is because this technology is capable of so much, they're often overwhelmed with really, where should I start and what should I do? Right. So we very often kind of tell customers, like, one, start with your user. Like, what is it that they really need to do? And then hone in on those like really high value use cases. I use Microsoft Copilot to like write poems all the time. And I'm pretty sure that's not the highest value use case that, it can really do. But because it's capable of so much, it's sometimes hard to navigate. So I often tell customers, you've got to be grounded in the value that these technologies can bring, and you have to be grounded in that user experience. Like, it's not an easy muscle memory change to just open up an Excel and instead of immediately creating a pivot table, to actually write a prompt that says, create some amount of analysis, and spending your time thinking about the results as opposed to spending your time actually creating the pivot table. It's a lot of muscle memory to overcome. So I think we can't forget the human at the center of all of this.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I think the whole change management, the new business process unlocks that are going to come as a result of this is going to require some level of, change management.
Yes.
A different way of thinking. We're already seeing that, right? Retailers and brands collaborating in ways they haven't collaborated ever in the past. Right. A new level of transparency because of the ways they can exchange information and make decisions.
Yes.
So all of that, you were referring to monetization, commercialization of data.
Yes.
There's going to be all sorts of opportunities, either direct or indirect monetization.
Yes.
So it's going to be a fascinating time for sure.
Absolutely. And change management also because of the security challenges of, uploading corporate data into a model where you don't know where it's going and those kinds of things. But one thing I saw in a recent Microsoft survey on Gen AI was, I think 83% of people who in the workplace who use Gen AI, they're using it from the bottom up. It's actually not top down, which, in some ways organizations have to catch up and do a little more change management to help, not control it so much, but because I think you want all of that excitement and energy, but at the same time, do it in a safe way, right?
100%. I always use the example that, like, if an engineering department decided they were going to transition from like C# to Python, very few people would care about that, and they could really roll it out in a very controlled way. But the thing with ChatGPT is it kind of burst onto the scene of the consumer world first. And so we all were like, hey, I can use this. And so you don't have that luxury of kind of a controlled rollout that only applies to a small subset of people. It's everyone in your organization, you should assume, is using generative AI in their personal lives. And so that makes responsible use policies very, very important for organizations.
Great point.
But, the ability to think of something and have it be created, I really think will change a lot of the roles in organizations. It'll create a lot more potential in organizations, tap into a lot of the diversity that we have. Think of all the people who may have brilliant ideas for your digital roadmap, but they're not trained engineers.
Oh, that's right.
But if they could tap into that and, create applications to demonstrate what they see as the potential, it really could be a game changer for a lot of businesses.
Yeah, and what we see is that in the past, in those siloed worlds, you spent all your time, 70% of your time was spent, on the toil of these plants.
So true.
You couldn't do the more creative thinking about the overall enterprise goals and reaching them. But now, generative AI, what it's going to do is it's going to take away some of that drudgery, and it's going to allow people to be more creative. Like you said, your focus shifts from the mechanical of building the pivot table to the creative thought process of how do I want to analyze this data.
So true, so true.
Right.
It's like I always say, I wasted my 20s getting PowerPoint to like sing and dance and go in circles. And so it takes a lot for me to be like, I don't need to spend my time doing, those animations anymore. I can just direct a prompt to do it. And actually my time is spent on thinking about the talk track and like, what is the, message I want to land and how might this be perceived? But it's a very different mental model that I think we'll all have to get used to.
Yeah, it's going to be, we have to develop a different muscle in terms of getting to that level of creativity, automation. That's going to free up time from some of these tasks that everybody has done for so long.
One of the things that I think this kind of power of three really enables is these generative AI capabilities, but also robotics. I feel like we've been seeing a lot of that here at the ICON conference, is then how do we think about like how humans and robots actually share work?
Right.
And how do we know when it's better for a robot to do the work versus a human? And what do you do when one or the other isn't available? Yes. So I also really love the idea of taking these kind of data and cloud application capabilities to the next level of like, is there a non-human workforce that we might be able to empower? Absolutely.
And imagine a world when you won't have to go to the warehouse to make changes. You'll use an Oculus Rift or something like that, some HoloLens, and you'll use VR to change how this thing is structured in the warehouse.
Yeah.
And robots will just do it for you. And talk about the free time and the automation it's gonna change the game for how logistics happens.
I think the other exciting thing that was mentioned this morning is all the scenario capabilities that you're building into your solutions, right? With the computing power now at your fingertips, you're able to plan out the upside in multiple different ways, and you can also plan for risk in such elaborate manner that you probably couldn't do it without all these capabilities in the past. So that's going to be
absolutely. We had a customer tell us that actually like his goal is to make a humanly impossible level of fidelity in the decision. It's like we often say, it's like, I want my supply chain to work as like, humanly best as possible.
Right.
And he actually said, I want it to be like, like inhumanly possible. Like a human couldn't even do all of this analysis. That's how specific I want to get. And with that, then with these improved kind of decision-making capabilities, customers are also telling us, like, I need those improved automation capabilities because I still have to move physical stuff around in the world.
Absolutely.
The problem is knowing better isn't enough. You have to do better. And so that's where I think the robotics comes in too, to actually improve the way things move.
Absolutely. Every day we send millions of messages to robots across, thousands of warehouses. And those robots, they have to be tasked in real time, and so that speaks to the need for the reliability of the cloud as well, because, we depend upon, and our customers depend upon that if there's a slight glitch, it can take down the pick waves. And so it's so important for us to all drive resiliency into the infrastructure as well. And that's something that I think we've really benefited from the partnership as well.
And I think that whole set of data is just going to continue to explode and grow.
Right.
So having that resiliency not only for today, but something down the future, having a reliable platform and technology capabilities are going to be key.
Absolutely. And if you think about the stat from this morning, the 10 billion machine learning predictions every day that we run for retailers, in order to do that, it takes a lot of robust infrastructure. And I'm thinking back to the opening statement about the engineers that we get to stand on the shoulders of, as benefiting from that. You couldn't do what we're trying to do without that scale, that resilience, and that engineering prowess. So it truly is remarkable what we've been able to accomplish in such a short time.
Yeah. So what are you most excited about for the next 12 months?
The most exciting thing for us, I think, is bringing together both planning and execution into one unified world, one unified data model. And now start to look at how do we do supply chain planning with an understanding of the execution world and what's happening in the warehouse, where are the trucks moving right now, how are the different carriers in the network, we talked about the network, how are all of those carriers, where are they positioned, where's the inventory, And what does that mean to how I optimize my supply chain plan? And then how does that help me drive up service levels and also maintain a carbon efficient, profile and meet those objectives as well. So the ability to do more of a global optimization now, instead of, like I said, these individual
local optimizations.
Local optims. That's
great.
what I think is going to be really exciting. It's going to allow retailers to go to the next level, I think.
Yeah. How do you see the data cloud enabling all of that?
So I think from our perspective, what's the most exciting is to see what we've been sort of evangelizing as sort of our mission is to open up the ecosystem of partnerships. And what Chris just articulated, being able to do it across just the supply chain world, right? Moving away from point solutions into more of a cohesive global optimization layer.
The real world examples.
Absolutely. And then once that happens, then the broader network comes along.
Right.
And then it gets even more exciting. So just to see that play out over the next 12, 18 months, I think we're going to see some step change improvements in processes.
Right. And how about you, Shanthi?
I mean, I think it's just that these turn into real benefits for our customers. I think for too long we've had, a set of business users that have really dreamed of what could I do if I had access to this data, or what could I do if I could move fast enough to meet my customers' expectations. And now we're seeing kind of the technology finally catch up to what we had really been hoping for. So what I love is we're now talking about real business outcomes, and we're not talking about the tech.
Right.
Like we've not once talked about the speeds and feeds of any of these solutions. And for people like me, that my job is to really help, like I said, match make the technology. It has to be based on the problems customers are trying to solve. So I love that we can talk about that and not get bogged down in what cloud and what application and does it have connectivity to this or that. Like let's just make all of that really easy for our customers and help them solve the problems that they have on their minds.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for spending the time to chat about this. I think it's a super exciting future we have ahead of us, and I'm very, very pleased and excited about the power of our partnership, Microsoft, Snowflake, and Blue Yonder working together to solve these problems. I think the sky's the limit, really.
Yeah, I so appreciate being a part of this, and I have to say, I'm always trying to talk to my husband about this stuff, and he's just like, no one thinks this is as interesting as you do. So I was very happy to have your company today, and clearly you both thought it was as exciting.
We definitely appreciate the partnership and being here for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.